Good morning, Mr. Ruud. Thank you very much for your time once again. I believe that we briefly offline chatted about the period in which you need to recharge your phone at the moment. I'm sure the same applies on your end. We inundated with questions, and I think that really is the purpose of this discussion today. Just to provide a bit of background and context to our clients. It's obviously, in these uncertain times, experiencing high levels of anxiousness, and I just wanted to create a bit of a backdrop and provide some certainty. Firstly, we've got lots to talk about, but I'm going to limit it in light of our time today, so not to stretch the content too much. So maybe if we could kick off on home soil, and maybe talking about kicking off, we're literally scoring our own goals from a relationship perspective with the USA at the moment. Even prior to this entire GNU debacle that was created, based on the fundamental tests of the newlyweds in the GSU, rather, with a relatively small issue in terms of the VAT debacle that shouldn't really be such a big deal. I guess my question is to you: has the DA drawn pertinent red lines too late in a negotiation tactic based on the budget, first of all?
Hello, Luciano. Yeah, I think the DA made a couple of mistakes and they started rectifying some of these mistakes. The one biggest mistake they made was to simply go along with the ANC on many previous issues, like, for example, expropriation and Bella and stuff like that. I think they could have resisted much more than what they actually did, and the impression was created that they were simply being overwhelmed by the ANC, which I think actually was the case. And then they saw this opportunity with the budget, and a 2% increase, that was a real red rag for them. And they realized, rightfully so, that this will really cause a lot of people will be very much opposed to this, and they used this opportunity to kind of regain lost credibility. And I think that the DA did an excellent job. Then in this whole negotiation on whether they should support or not support the budget, I think the DA started acting a bit irresponsibly in a way that they started including other issues that are not really relevant to the budget in this whole negotiation process as well. But the same applies to the ANC and some other political parties. I think they all acted like real politicians, but eventually the ANC got the support of some of the other political parties, and I've spoken to some of the other political parties that voted for the so-called budget, and they made it clear to me they didn't vote for an increase in VAT. No, I mean, that is just plain stupidity. If you vote for this framework without voting for an increase in VAT, you have to either you vote or you don't vote in favor or against this. So clearly there's a lot of political play going around and a lot of political grandstanding that is happening. The bottom line, however, is that the relationships between the major parties, between the ANC and the DA, has been damaged. I can't see how they're going to be able to work well together going forward. So this is certainly a marriage that has been, well, I think from the beginning was actually a marriage that's not going to stand the test of time. And I think it's kind of just a matter of time before the so-called government of national unity falls apart. At the moment, nobody wants to be blamed for the collapse of the GNU, and that's why the DA is not stepping out, and that's why the ANC is not kicking out the DA. So they're all just waiting for something. Nobody really knows what. I think eventually this will come to an end, the government of national unity, but it doesn't mean it's the end of government. We will likely see a minority government in the form of the ANC trying to get legislation passed exactly the same way that they've just done with the budget, or the framework actually, in future. But that means that we've got a much weaker government and a much weaker ANC as well. And I think in any event, this government of national unity wouldn't have lasted the full length of time. And remember that the DA, if they get kicked out of the government of national unity, is a very powerful party all of a sudden, because they can call for a vote of no confidence, and they're probably going to win that, and that means another election in South Africa. Then, of course, it's uncertainty, and like exactly what we saw before the previous national election in South Africa. But that's short-term stuff. After the election, the outcome of that election is probably going to be something similar to what we had until relatively recently. And I believe some of the extreme parties like the EFF is likely to lose a lot of support, and maybe even MK as well. And the DA is probably going to win a lot, and the ANC is also going to gain a little bit more. And some other political parties could be winners and losers. But broadly speaking, we will still have the same kind of government, even if there's a national election within a month or two, three. So politics-wise, we've seen a lot of dust recently, but I'm not really too concerned about that. And I must say, I think if you look at the reaction on the financial markets actually reacted quite viciously to this political instability that we're currently experiencing in South Africa. But personally, I'm not too concerned about politics.
So the financial markets that you're referring to, is that not predominantly driven by rand hedges that's rolled up within our market? Yeah. I mean, so
of course there are many things behind that, but what triggered that? And I think there are three things that triggered the local upheavals that we experienced in the local financial markets. The first one was this budget fight, the on-off budget fight that we had. The markets didn't like that. The second one was the political fallout, and there the markets reacted quite viciously. And the third one is the Trump issue by Trump, the tariff issue by Trump. And there the markets also reacted quite negatively. Now, I look at the various markets. I think the equity market was affected mostly by the Trump thing, by the tariffs, like most equity markets globally. But the rand is mostly the result of political fallout locally. So it really depends on which one you look at. And of course, there are various ways that various channels through which the various markets are affected. But I really watched the markets very, very closely, and the rand really reacted quite viciously to the political fallout locally.
So the VAT implication takes effect on the 1st of May.
So, it will happen, yes.
So your view on that for the South African consumer? I mean, so it is going to happen. These parties that have voted against whatever they have voted against, but in favour for the ANC, supporting them. What does this mean? It's going to take effect on the 1st of May. What does that mean?
It means an increase of 0.5% in the value-added tax rate. It also means, and this is far more damaging, close to about 20 billion rand increase in personal income taxes. But Luciano, this is the irony of all of this. A week or what ago, SARS released their final collection numbers for a previous financial year in terms of revenue. And they surpassed that, I'm just using round numbers, they surpassed that by about 10 billion rand. And that's what the Minister of Finance expects to get with this 0.5% increase in VAT rate as well. It's also roughly about 10 billion. So this is really a fight about nothing. They've got the money already. But again, nobody wants to. It's a game of chicken that the politicians are playing here. Who's going to blink first? But having said that, yes, a 0.5% increase will add upward pressure on inflation. My biggest concern here. My biggest concern. Luciano, are you there?
Yes.
My apologies about that. My biggest concern is that this will lead to more money to politicians. I'm also quite concerned about that 7-odd billion rand that was additional money that was given to SARS, which will also result in more money to politicians. And that's the problem. The problem that we have in South Africa is that if you give money to politicians, they spend that. And the only way you can get them to spend less money is to give them less money. And unfortunately, the real issue is government expenditure, and we've got a spend-thrift government in South Africa. And as long as they have money available and as long as they can increase taxes, they will do so, and they will keep on spending money. For that reason, I really blame the other political parties for letting the ANC off the hook, because this was an opportunity to really squeeze the ANC and force them to start spending less money.
Okay, let's move a little bit more west. Mr. Trump has been very vocal in his campaign with regards to the tariffs. The Liberation Day tariffs that he refers to, however, created extreme levels of uncertainty. And some countries are trying to retaliate, and some countries are trying to obviously negotiate different approaches. I see the Chinese this morning very clearly stipulated or indicated that they would fight to the end. I don't know what that means. We don't necessarily understand it. Financial markets are feeling the valuation pain with some of the sharpest pullbacks we've seen in many years over the past week or so. What is your take on the trump cards that we've been dealt with, and how do you see this playing out from
All
a
right,
macro perspective, first of all, maybe?
okay, just a bit of a background that I think is important. And if you listen to the two sides of this argument, they both have truths in it, and they both have untruths in it. And quite often, somebody they say, if you really want to get somebody to believe a big untrue, then you mix it a little bit with a little bit of truth, and you can sell that. And that's exactly what is happening on both sides of this argument. The reality is that the world has experienced amazing financial and economic integration and growth and prosperity the last couple of decades, the so-called global village. The reality is also that America has to a large extent been the driver. America and other countries as well, but America was a major economic force here. And America was the buyer of last instance in a way. America is running a huge trade deficit with the rest of the world. But the Americans are being compensated for that, in that their currency is the world's most important reserve currency. And that gives them an extraordinary benefit to have the world's most important reserve currency. So Donald Trump is right, but he's not fully right. And the other side is also wrong or right, but not completely so. So what Donald Trump is trying to do now, he wants to level the playing field in terms of trade, but it's ignoring the service account. And he's ignoring the fact that his currency is the world's most important reserve currency. And the way that they're calculating these levies is definitely flawed. It's very crude, and it's just not correctly calculated. Maybe the direction, what he wants to achieve, is more or less okay, but the way it's calculated is just simply flawed. Or maybe Donald Trump implemented all these tariffs because he wants to use that as a negotiation tool to achieve some other things. So there are so many maybes and what ifs and wrong and rights and so on. But what I'm pretty sure of is that this is going to change the world in which we are living in. This is going to have a huge impact on political relations internationally. And already we're seeing that. We can see there's the very cozy relationship that's always been there between the United States and Europe that is breaking down. And between the US and Canada, that's another very good example. So political alignments internationally is being reconfigured. I think that's something that is definite. And secondly, the way that the world has been operating in terms of economics and capital flow and trade and stuff up to now, that has been disrupted. And even if we go back a month and Donald Trump say, I'm going to slash all these tariffs and I'm going to go back to where we were a month ago, the world is never going to be the same again. It's going to be different. So, and there's a lot of uncertainty, and that's the reason why the financial markets are reacting the way that they are reacting. And that's quite volatile, the markets. We all know they've been all over the place. So is there anything here that we can trust? Anything here that we can follow? Anything that gives us clarity? And I think yes. And that thing is especially the capital market, especially the American capital market. Now, I believe that the capital market, the bond market, is by far the most clever of all financial markets. The equity markets are very volatile. They're all over the place. Just see what's been happening in the last couple of days. But the American bond market has been fairly stable. The bond yields came down a little bit, and that can be indicative of all sort of things, higher or lower inflation, higher or lower economic growth, and so on. But the point I want to make is that the American bond market is not panicking. It is not collapsing. And that's the good thing. So the bond market tells me that things are changing. Things are going to be different. We could see, in fact, we can talk about inflation. We could see a change in the outlook for inflation and economic growth. But this is not, there's no reason to panic. I think that's the important point. And that's what you and I do for our clients, to give this message to our clients and to tell them the world's going to be different. Things are going to change, and things are changing all the time. And we try to stay on top of things and try to figure out what is going on, but we are not panicking because things are changing. There's no reason to panic, and we are looking after the money of our clients. In fact, this uncertain environment in which you are currently living creates all sort of opportunities at various places. And I can give you one example. You can get about more than 11% on the South African capital market at the moment, with inflation below 4%, that is an amazing, amazing real return. I mean, there are very, very few places where you can get that kind of return. And that is in South Africa. And that is the lowest risk investment in South Africa. So that's one example of an opportunity. Another opportunity is the equity market came down quite a lot recently for various reasons. But the South African equities are mostly, their earnings are mostly from abroad. So although they are denominated in rands, and they came down in rand terms, and the equity JSE came down, but they are actually international companies, and that's another wonderful investment opportunity. So should you start selling everything and go and sit in cash? And I think the answer certainly is no. Is if you look at more stable markets like the capital market telling us things are changing, but there's no reason to panic. And if we look at the opportunities locally, for example, many other opportunities as well, there are very good opportunities, and it's your job and my job to point that out to our clients and to tell our clients not to panic.
No, I couldn't support that more. I think a lot of these assets, especially the offshore growth stocks, as an example, have been priced for perfection for a very long period of time. We've been saying that for a number of years, to be honest. And I think maybe these opportunities that you are referring to from an equity perspective is now, the barriers have now been lowered to such an extent that it becomes a bit more attractive. Diversification obviously is key, and I think that's what we're doing at the moment for clients, is to make sure that we balance these assets accordingly to relative to their mandates. From a South African perspective, Dawie, relative to the uncertainty and Trump's interpretation of really what's going on in South Africa, and what we see now from a political perspective in the GNU and the tariffs, how does that all roll up? I mean, we're enjoying much more attention that we should. Why is that, and how do we stand up to this going forward? What have we got to offer?
Well, a lot of the spotlight was really on South Africa 30 years ago, and pretty much the world spotlight is on South Africa again today.
Yeah.
I think what we've spoken about this as well, and I've been quite outspoken about this myself, and that is that the ANC government has done horrible damage to South Africa and the South African economy and all sort of levels. What we are currently experiencing, I think, is the end of the ANC government. Of course, that goes with a lot of uncertainty and a lot of instability, and I don't think really there is another political party that can really take over from the ANC yet. Maybe it could be the ANC that reforms itself, or maybe it could be the DA that maybe can fill that void, that vacuum that is currently there, which is currently being filled by the Government of National Unity, just by the way. So we are moving to something else politically, but at the same time, we're getting rid of the really, really bad part of the ANC, hopefully. And that's at least what it looks like to me. Either the ANC in total, or at least some of the bad parts of the ANC. It doesn't mean we're completely out of the woods. It also means that it's possible that the bad guys in the ANC could take over government, or the ANC in the short term. So that is certainly a risk that is there. But I think the general direction is for the ANC to be forced out, or at least the bad part of the ANC. So local political developments is really a bit uncertain, and it's in a transition phase, but mostly for the good, I would say. The same goes internationally. There's a spotlight on South Africa. You can see South Africa and US relationships are not what it's supposed to be, but South African-European relationship is actually quite good. And recently, South Africa has been cozying up to certain countries and certain regimes that I personally think is not a good idea. And the fact that Donald Trump is putting a spotlight on that is probably going to get the ANC to think twice about some of their international relationships and their position in terms of certain other countries and certain other regimes globally, which is also a good thing, because up to now they could do whatever they wanted internationally. Now they can't do that. And despite what they are saying, I think they will start thinking twice about these sort of things. So yes, the spotlight is on South Africa, but locally and internationally, I think the damage that the ANC has done, everybody's become more aware of that. And hopefully the ANC itself will reform fast, quicker, and move into a better direction than what they've been taking South Africa recently. And in any event, I believe we are changing the political landscape in South Africa and our relations internationally as well. So all of this goes along with a lot of uncertainty and a lot of pain, but mostly moving in the right direction. So I'm actually quite, talking about the roll-up, whether everything is going to end, I'm actually quite optimistic. It's a bit of uncertainty in the short term and a lot of pain with that as well, but I've got a suspicion that 30 years ago we could make it, we're going to make it again.
Davy, thank you very much for your time. I really do appreciate your input once again, as always. And to our clients, we want to reiterate the fact that we respect the uncertainty creates a lot of concern. Rest assured that we are efficient as we have all hands on deck during these volatile periods. We respect it on our mandates, and we remain committed to our relationships. Thank you very much for your trust once again. For us to look after your portfolio and your hard-earned wealth. We'll continue to enhance and protect as we deliver our services going forward. If you do have any additional questions or need more information, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at any time. Thank you, Davy. Thank you to our clients for trusting us with the management of your portfolios. And please keep in touch. We'll continue the communication throughout these periods. Thanks, Davy.
Thanks, Luciano.